I am remembering to record this.
Okay. Listing to detect the income. Okay.
I wasn't.
Got it.
Good. Not that usually. I hesitate to say I do anything usually. However, I am now recording on my phone.
He was trying to find wires.
I'm gonna get a notebook. Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, being 6:48, I will call to order this meeting, public hearing for the establishment of an ambulance district for the town of Malta. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible.
All right, Scott Skinner from Malta Stillwater EMS is here to answer any questions the public or board may have.
How are you doing?
Tom Bergen, Scott Skinner.
I know you're Tom Bergen. How are you?
Oh, yeah, no relation.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
You too. So, I don't know if you have a question of how this laid out. This laid out, I've been here about 3.5 years. And during the last administration, they were talking about this, doing this, and they go back and forth. They didn't want to do it because it was election times or people were running. They didn't want to lose. And they looked into it back in 18. They did the numbers, they did random numbers. And so they decided to do it this year. They could have done it through a referendum where the board did it and they chose to do it this way. So they asked me to ask them for the use district. So we did. And here we are. So I don't know if the 17.5 cents per thousand assessed is the number around Lake, but that's the number of it's the same.
Yeah, it's a lump sum.
So like a trailer park type trailer home up in Northway Estates, it's $961 a year. That's what a trailer would have to pay per trailer. And probably the most expensive home in Malta would be about 80 cents a dollar a year. That's the spread of costs.
You meant $9.60.
$9.61 versus probably the most expensive home in Malta, around 87 to 90.
Yeah.
My home was like 50 cents. What COVID has produced is a big mess in the medical field, in hospitals and in EMS. There's not a lot of people going into EMS, and with the way things happen with the government and everything, people aren't working. It's caused the economy to be very inflationary, and there's a lot of jobs that aren't being filled, and there's not a lot of people in EMS right now. So we're running into people that are leaving for better jobs, better pay. We've inflated our pay as much as we can within our budget to not go into money and to still pay our bills. We try to stay in the black, and because we don't want to go out of business, I don't want to lose my job. We don't do good fiscally. That's a problem to me, because I'm a businessman. A 21-year, I've been in public safety for 30 years. I've been a fireman, volunteer fireman, paid fireman, and I've been in EMS since I started the fire department. So I know how to run a business. I know how to run it. I was a chief of water lead for 3 or 4 years before I retired. So I'm familiar. I know how the insurance works. I'm a coder. The way our budget works is most of our billing covers our employees. We have 2 volunteers left there, right? We have about 17 to 20 volunteers, but 2 are ride. They actually ride 12 to 24 hours a month, which isn't a lot, but we appreciate. We try to get as many volunteers as we can. It's just hard. People are volunteering or not volunteering in the fire department. So our thing is our overhead. So Stillwater has an EMS district. They've had one for years, and we don't have a problem with it. It goes well. 20% of our calls are in Stillwater. 80% of our calls, or actually 81% of our calls are in Walker. They're both growing. Stillwater plans on adding 2,000 new residents the next year. There's a lot of building on the south and the west side of
Near Global Foundries, there's a big development going.
So there's a lot going on in Stillwater. And we're also going to build an EMS station there next year, because the one that we're in currently is 110 to 120 years old, where our ambulances are parked in Stillwater along Route 4. So that's something that's been on for 3 or 4 years. So it's going to get done hopefully next year. That doesn't affect the money. We have 2 separate budgets for the 2 towns, and that doesn't affect anything. So it's not like we're spending all our money on Stillwater or anything. That's completely separate. But like I said, all our billing pays for our people roughly, and everything else is overhead. We get roughly 670,000 between the 2 towns. A year. That's what we're currently getting, and that pays for a lot of our overhead. Our ambulances, our monitors, our stretchers, our equipment, our soft goods, our insurances, our gas, electric, utilities, phones, you name it. And what's going up with us is our workers' comp is very high. It's about 92,000 a year. Our medical insurance, our health insurance is going to go up next year 11.6%. Our employees pay some, and we pay some. So it's, it's a hit on everybody. So actually, employees are going to take a hit, and they're going to pay more every 2 weeks. When they get paid, they're going to pay a little less than $20 more for health insurance. So they're going to be looking for another raise. Because plus fuel's way up, as everybody knows. Gas, we're projected next year to spend, where we used to spend 24 to 26,000, we're going to be spending 42,000. So there's a lot going up. There's not much going down. We can live with this proposed thing that Kevin King and Tom Walker put together. It solidifies our position. Because I think out of the box, and we're doing other things, like we're going around vaccinating people that are homebound in our district. Anybody that's homebound that puts in a request to the county, they put them on a list and they send us to their house and give them shots. Whether they're elderly, they're obese, they're sick, they're whatever. I did one the other day with a kid in a wheelchair. I don't know what his condition was, but he couldn't get his family couldn't get him out, so we gave him 17-year-old got a vaccine, because everybody's looking to get vaccinated.
So what's the procedure for if somebody wanted that?
Contact county health department, and they put them on the list, and they determine whether they can get to a pod or not, which we also work pods. But if they can't get to a pod, they'll put them on the list, and then it goes by ambulance districts. You know, Clifton Park and Waterford, Boston Lake and Wilton and us and Corinth, and the 11 different agencies. And if it's in our area, we go. We fill out the paperwork, we ask the questions, we make sure we're candidate for the shot, we deliver a shot, and we complete the paperwork, and we're on the way. Which has been working great countywide. All the citizens are happy. The health department, the doctor are happy, the supervisor, everybody's happy because it's very successful. We're getting our rate of vaccinated people way up, which is good. We're one of the highest around. They're in, you know, we're doing this extra work, which is fine, and I'm doing a lot of it. There's monies out there for, like I was just talking to Dave about, there's rescue money out there and there's other monies out there. Because we're not employees, that doesn't get applied. So we're good enough that we made reserved budget and we've done the right things to where we're gonna be okay. We're gonna get through this year. What the town of Malta is projected for next year is $470,000. They help pay our mortgage on our building and they give us the balance for our operation.
So American Rescue Plan money cannot be applied,
They can be, they're using it for infrastructure. They're using it for the
but
truck.
it could be applied. Because I had a conversation with Cynthia Young about this.
It could be, but it's decided that it's not gonna be. For any public safety, it's gonna be used for infrastructure, which is fine. I don't have a problem.
So you have a budget now, it comes from taxes paid to the town. The town has a contract with you, and that's what funds.
Correct.
If the district is established, you become a taxing district yourself,
Correct.
okay? Do you go to the taxpayers to ask them
We
to pay
present
the
a
budget? Is it
budget.
is it like a school budget?
Or the
We
library.
present
budget.
a budget to the town, kind of like the fire department does now. We present a budget to the town and they, I don't know what they do, negotiate or decide what the level is gonna be. It's capped, there's 2% cap, just like everything else. And they decide.
So it's still done through the town.
As far as I know, unless they,
So is there
there's
any-
no separate entity, there's no like district board of directors. I think it's still for the town, the way they're deciding.
Okay, so everything's the same, except
New line. item.
you are, in a sense, paid directly as opposed to through taxes. So the only thing that changes is the town complaint now has no tax. Because the same money is coming to you from the same people. That's politically brilliant.
Public safety made into a political issue. That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the library. That was the same deal with the.
Correct.
They didn't want to negotiate.
No.
with the library.
No, people get to vote on the library.
So right now it is.
Yeah,
But it used to be the same thing as these guys are doing,
used to be.
where it came out of the general fund and the library people used to have to go up and negotiate with them, and everybody got sick of it.
Yes,
So they established, they put it out there for a vote, everybody voted yes, so now there's a library,
but they're now independent of the town.
absolutely.
The ambulance corps is not going to be independent of the
We will
town.
not be independent of town because the town could replace us. They could say, all right, we don't like you anymore, we're gonna bring somebody else in, we'll give you the money.
So you won't have to establish a board of directors?
We have a board of directors, but we don't have to go for the district. The town is gonna do that.
So if you want more money,
We have to go in front of the town.
you guys still gotta go.
And sit down and explain to them what our projected budget is.
So if the town decided to increase your stipend, if assuming that the voters said yes. So if the town wanted to increase your stipend, you would have to talk to them and they would agree on an increase and the tax then would
Correct.
reflect that.
Correct, but you have to also remember that we're building like crazy as well.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to
So
figure out.
our assessment goes up, and if the rate, it stays the same, but the assessment keeps going up, in theory, the number will go up a little bit.
So it's slightly different than the law.
Interesting. It is very interesting, but the thing is, our call volume is way up. In the last 3 years, our call volume is up 18%. We took a dip during the COVID 3 months. We're looking at doing 3,880 calls right now as of today for year 2021. And that's roughly a little over 11 calls a day with 3 ambulances. 2 are in Malta, 1 is in Stillwater. And that Stillwater makes coming over here a lot because 80%, 81% of the calls are in Malta. So we are busy. Our people work hard. We got some really good people. We got some really good equipment. We have some good vehicles, and we keep them nice because we provide a good service. So when you call 911, you got somebody here for you. And our services. Today, twice we had people coming from mutual aid from Clifton Park community, which is real rare. We're usually going to that. And today we're so busy. We did one time, we did 7 calls. We were all out with 7 calls in once. And then a time we did 4 calls. We only had 3 ambulances, so we had people coming to help us, which is good, but not as timely. But you can't predict when people are going to call. You got to take a call by call at the answer.
For Joe resident, what's the difference whether or not this passes?
Well, you pass it. That 470 would be back in the general fund. So they're gonna have to pay a little extra for the tax. And the town's whole. They have that 470 for other infrastructure issues for.
But if the 470 didn't come out of the tax, it would have come out of the town's general fund.
Right.
So what's the difference for
So
Joe
you're gonna
resident?
have a separate tax, and then you're gonna have that 470. So they can buy a new truck that they have a 22-year-old dump truck that they have to replace. They have to hire another person.
So this comes linked with a kind of bump up in
Well,
tax rate.
I didn't say that.
No, that's all right. I think we can start.
I'm on TV.
Start.
No, but keep in mind that I think 80% of Malta's budget comes from the share of sales tax, and there is no property tax for residents. So it's not like it's directly out of pocket.
Any questions?
I mentioned this to Scott before. We were out west, my wife and I, and we saw a McDonald's that said $19 an hour hiring. And EMTs start at $17. $15.50
Our
an
average
hour,
EMT makes $17.17,
which is to me insane.
and our medium paramedic is in the $24 to $25 range. And these in this economy right now are not living wages, and people are working 80 to 100 hours a week in different agencies
Yeah, and these are
to make things work at home. So that's a problem with the economy. Our economy is all, with inflation, everything's out of whack, and it's out of all our control. We're a small group, we can't control that much.
speaking of the economy being out of whack. The problem with funding things depending on sales tax revenue is during COVID, sales tax revenue went down. So it's not the taxing the ambulance district is a way of stabilizing and being able to forecast with some certainty into the future.
And it helps us budget.
Yeah.
Because we know it's there, we can budget and make sure, I don't like to overspend my budget. And we haven't, in the time I've been here, we have not overspent my budget. Because, and I don't want to, because anytime you're red, that looks bad. I don't like red numbers. So we don't overspend, we don't buy things that we don't need. And we've been lucky with Dave insuring us that we haven't had any big events where it's cost us money, and a lot of other agencies have. And they insured, we run short, I run a lot of time on the ambulance, I was on the ambulance a couple times today. I'm supposed to be like the mayor, sitting there doing the paperwork and writing and doing things on my computer. I don't get much done when I'm on the ambulance. So I apply for grants, I do, you know, we put it through those Global Foundries grants, FEMA grants, we got TTT money. If it wasn't for the TTT, we'd be in the red. We got money from the TTT because we lost a lot of income during that COVID. And luckily, if it wasn't for that, we'd be like any other agency, a lot of other agencies, and if it wasn't for that, there'd be a lot of financial difficulties. We were put onto that, and it's been a big help, but you know, it's tough, it's hard, but we got great people working. We really do. We love working here, and we put out a good product, and we try to give them good insurance, and we match 3% on a retirement product. And, you know, it's what we lose people to the public sector, to police, fire, to higher paying jobs, nurses, some of the female nurses, because they can make, a nurse can make $300,000. Travel nurses. Crazy, but this is where we stand. Do you have any concerns about it, or do you have any cases where you're getting bad service or anything like that? Because I like to know. And also, I was talking to the mayor before you guys come in. If you want to do ride along with us, you're more than welcome. See what we do, or even come and visit. October 19th, we have an open house. Right around Middletown, on 5 or 7 or 6 to 8. We have an open house. You can come in, see our equipment, see our people. See what we do if you're interested. That's all. It's open. It's open to everybody.
You've arranged not to have any emergency calls.
Oh, no,
Six
there's
and
gonna be
eight.
emergency calls, but I got a couple people that are really good with people that are gonna be there extra, so we don't, if everybody goes out, we still have some people to talk.
All I know is your response time is phenomenal because when, I forget the lady's name next to Carrie. Sandy. That call came out and I literally ran into the ambulance and I live right there.
We try to meet, and it's harder as we get out in the rural areas, Stillwater, some of the farther areas of the mall, but we try to meet the American Heart Association standard because we are American Heart Association Gold Award for STEMIs, which are STO, Asian MIs, heart attacks. We are a gold participant in that. We provide excellence in healthcare for cardiac patients. That's an award we've gotten the last 2 years. We're in it for 3 years. We're a silver award winner the first year, because you're not allowed gold. You can only give you a silver. That's the highest you can do. And then the last 2 years, we've been gold participants, award winners, because we provide excellence. And we take people to the right place. We provide mobile health care. We have everything in our rigs that an emergency room has. So when we work a cardiac arrest, if we run it for a period of time, the patient's not going to respond or not get better. They want us to leave them there, leave them in place. So we speak with a doctor and they make a decision whether they're transported or not. And a lot of times now, we do everything. We push every drug, we shock, we innovate, we do everything we're supposed to do, just like they would in ER. And if there's no response, we leave the patient there, and we turn our resources towards the family and kind of work with them and see if, along with the police, sheriff's department, or state police, work in whether, funeral home director could be contacted. We kind of help them with that, kind of discuss with them. So it's not like grab her crap and leave. We, discuss with them that are loved ones passing. We see the best of things and we see the worst of things. We're in everybody's houses. We see bad wrecks. We do a lot of things, and we do a lot of things that aren't like this new telemedicine and the vaccines, and we go to pods for the nurses who get shots. We stand by at the pods. So we're very active, and And the fire departments have been very active, so. It's just a busy time in our world, and people are getting more demanding, and when citizens are very demanding, or we're noticing that they're very, like, you owe me something, like, that affects. So there's a lot more overdoses, there's a lot of, just more cases of mental health issues because of all the stress in society. So,
Well, from personal experience, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you and your colleagues for what you do. And fire department too, the emergency response.
we appreciate the support. I'm just a little unhappy that this public safety issue become a public issue or a political issue. It shouldn't be a political issue. I know people should all vote on it because they're taxpayers. Money's coming out of their pockets. I'm a taxpayer. I live in Malta. But I know in all my years of doing this, this is a good thing for the people because it solidifies, you know we're coming. You know somebody's coming when you call 911. Somebody was telling me today, that Dr. Buckley, I was in Dr. Buckley's office, she's liquidating. And she's telling me 20 years ago, she's telling me the kid ended up getting a new heart. He was dying in front of her. She was at a wait 2 hours for an ambulance. 10 years ago, it was an hour. Things have changed. Mobile healthcare has progressed so much to where, but a lot has to do with people aren't volunteer. That's a lot. We have paid professionals on 24/7, 365. I have 3 ambulance staff. I'm lucky right now, but things aren't looking good for the future. So we're thinking out of the box, trying to be creative, try to find ways to get people to work.
Most of your volunteers, from what I hear, are they volunteer because they know that'll put them first on the list for higher position.
Well,
Because you'll already
we
know
interviewed a guy today to be a volunteer. He's an EMT with no experience, so he wants to volunteer first, get his feet wet, and then be a part-timer or full-time. Full-timers, we usually hire part-timers from inside that want to be full-time because they get insurance and stuff. So we hire from within. We only have 18 full-time medicine EMTs, 9 and 9. You know, as calls keep going up and we get up over that 12 or 13 per day average, we might have to put another rig on, whether it's 8 or 10 or 12, strategically planned. Have a staff so that we respond, answer our calls. People don't want to call 911 wait. They don't like wait.
3 of my sons currently say 20. 3 of them are in training. I think, so right now.
It's good. They want to be fired. They're supposed
One
to.
of the already is.
Yep.
I mean, it's pretty-
I'll tell them to
They're all
come
very
out.
happy.
Tell them to come out and see me because we're interested in them. Trust me.
Heidi, did you?
Or from all the story.
Thank you for coming in. I'm sorry I'm late.
Did you have any questions before we close the public hearing?
No, I don't.
Okay. Scott,
I'm ready
anything
for
anything else?
No, I just, I'm very open, you call me anytime. And I think, if you come up and you want to take a ride along, you're more than welcome to ride and see what we do.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott.
I'm gonna head out because I've been working since 7.
Yeah.
I'm going to Florida tomorrow, so my great.
Ah.
See you
That's
there.
fine.
Thank you.
Okay, the public hearing is hereby closed at 7:16. And the Village Board of Trustees workshop meeting for October 6th is hereby open. First order of business is Mr. Meager.
Thank you. I'm Dave Meager, pretty much a native around later. I'm Dave. I know everybody else. So milkshake in this room. One of the drugstore. And I remember the Orient, it's a standing building. And a lot of happy memories there. Great place to be brought up. You know, it's ride bicycles and tennis courts and ball fields. It was just great. And when my parents started the insurance business here, it was found like company. And then I joined them, and after being with them for quite some time, 20 years ago, I sold the business down in the trust. And then they've changed the name to Amsure after they acquired, mine was their first acquisition. After they acquired mine, they acquired a bunch of other insurance agencies, one of which is in town, named Amsure. So I guess that was sort of a natural transition. So we write the insurance for the village. It's divided into two segments, two policies. One of them is the fire department. But this isn't the fire department part. That's in a separate, with a separate company for the very good reason is that they will pay a dividend if the group is profitable. And every year they do a calculation. And did you get your 15% dividend check yet, Ken?
I believe they did.
A lot of my clients are calling me because the system in the past was they would give the checks to us and we would deliver them. And apparently, because of COVID last year, they started to send the checks direct. So I'm hoping they revert back. And usually they would go to us and you'd see me walk through the door because I like nothing better. People love nothing better than get money back from insurance. I mean, that's just goes without saying. So this is not the fire company part. So if you say, where are the fire trucks and all that kind of thing, where are the firehouses and all the rest that goes with it, that comes up at a different time. And we do review that also. Now, this is everything else. And the two things we can do tonight. We go through the policy line by line, which is there, or we can do a summary, which I'm assuming everybody's going to vote. Summary, absolutely. instead of
I'm thinking.
I feel like we went over some of it recently. Was that the fire department?
No, this.
I feel like this hasn't been a year. Well, really?
Every October, we do the renewals, we just get all.
So
I guess time was fine.
this, so what we'll do, we just go through and stop me any place that's not designed to be my law. I think that you'll be very happy at the end when you see that in spite of various changes that have been made and various increases that have been done, the premium is up less than 1%, which doesn't take into account the dividend this company paid of $380 back in June. So if you want to look at it that way, the premium is less than last year. So I'm sure you've got other things on the agenda tonight. So, and I was supervisor. Some of you might remember I was supervisor in Malta back in the good old days. And so I know what it's like to attend these meetings. The second page is just how you reach us. Gives our email and phone numbers. The third page and over under the top of the fourth page, what we do is we take all of your buildings. This building, the auditorium, the garage, powers, and you'll see that we add them all up. on page 3 and 4. Don't ask me why we go from location 5 to location 8. I think something must have been eliminated someplace along the way. But, at any rate, we add them all up, and we come to a total of 3.45 million. And the beauty of the way Selective writes this policy is that if there's a claim to any of these buildings, including this one, or including the auditorium, you're not limited to the numbers shown on these pages. You can access the blanket limit, which is 3.4. So another way of saying it is you've got 3.4 million as a pool of money to deal with a serious loss involving any of these buildings. And you might wonder, we're talking fire and lightning, and storm, and vandalism, things of that nature. There is $1,000 up to. The coverage is replacement cost. And what that means is, say, part of the roof goes off, the company doesn't come in and say, well, you know, that roof was 10 years old and roofs last 20 years, and only going to be half. Doesn't work that way. It's replacement cost coverage, subject to $1,000 deductible, and it's written on that blanket basis. So that's a favorable way that they do that. Then over on page, and by the way, stop. If anybody didn't understand that, I wanted to explain it again. I'm glad to do it. Page 4 is general liability. General liability would be anyone who was hurt on village property. I think attorneys like to call it slips and falls, right, Tom? And
Or walk out in front of a truck, yes.
right.
Bad memory.
Okay. So also streets and roads, if somebody has an accident on village street.
Dave, can we, you've got bodily injury, property damage, $3 million aggregate. Underneath is personal and advertising injury aggregate. What's the difference between personal injury and bodily injury?
Bodily injury is somebody who physically gets hurt. If they fall down on a piece of village property, they break their leg. Personal injury is what the insurance companies use that terminology to call libel and slander, things of that nature. That's personal injury.
Okay,
So somebody isn't physically hurt, they're broken leg, but maybe their reputation is damaged by what was said. But the real key here is in the middle of that chart is you'll see $1 million per occurrence. But you have an umbrella policy, which we'll get to later, which is $3 million. So you add the two together, you really have $4 million for any general liability claim that falls under this policy. Then you'll notice also down at the bottom of that chart, there is a coverage called data compromise. What that means is if your computer information were compromised by a hacker and personally identifiable information was compromised under state law, you have to notify those people, you have to give them credit counseling, and that's what data compromise does. Now, it's not ransomware, and you're probably all familiar with ransomware and what ransomware is. If you wanted to, if you felt your network was threatened, and I assume you've got a good IT person who has firewalls built into your system, you know, we can get a full cyber policy that includes ransomware. But for municipalities, they're not particularly inexpensive. So this data compromise seemed like a good middle ground, but I just want to point out that difference. So if there's nothing more on that page.
there is. Up above that, it says employee benefits per employee, $100 million, $1,000 deductible on a claims made basis.
Okay.
What employee benefits
Okay.
would we be looking to our insurance company to cover?
let's say, I mean, you provide medical to your employees. So let's say you hired somebody and somehow the insurance company wasn't notified that this new person you hired needed family coverage. And that person was only signed up for single coverage. And then the family person got sick and went to the hospital and had a big hospital bill that the insurance company would pay. That would come in here. That's what employee benefits.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good coverage to have. Not that we don't have a lot of confidence in Tim or staff, but it's always good to be insured for almost any eventuality. Now, page 5 is the vehicle policy. Again, the million is supplemented by the $3 million umbrella. So for any one auto accident, you have $4 million limit. And the way to read the chart at the bottom of the middle of the page is the two right-hand columns. One is comprehensive, one is collision. And you'll notice that most of them are $1,000. That's comprehensive collision. The one with the asterisks, they're covered over on the next page on the contractor's equipment policy. The selector is determined that it's less expensive to cover dump trucks on the contractor's equipment policy than it is on the auto policy. So that's why they do it that way. And page 6.
I'm sorry, on page 5, what is mutual aid?
Mutual aid, that's a good question. Mutual aid is, let's say there's a fire in the village and you have to call the fire department from Boston Spa and their equipment gets damaged during the fire over here.
But we already, through the fire department, we already have mutual aid agreements within the fire department, so.
But this is
overlapping.
well, a mutual aid agreement is just to help each other. If I'm understanding it correctly, this is insurance.
I'm just saying, I don't know all of the, I don't know what all is covered with those agreements. So I would say, do we know for sure that that is not already covered in something through fire and the fire department? I wouldn't want to have overlapping.
No, and we were proud. My guess is that under the general municipal law, the scenario I was describing where some fire department from outside Malden had to come in and fight a fire in the village. Under the general municipal law, the village becomes responsible for the damage to that truck that came to help. And the theory of that is, the theory behind it is that the taxpayers of the village of Boston Spa should not be penalized to fix a truck that wasn't fighting a fire in their own jurisdiction. So the mutual aid is here to pay for the damage to that truck that comes to help you. And you know, it's a two-way street, by the way. If one of your vehicles goes to Boston Spa, gets damaged, you collect them with their mutual. But I'm sure glad to look at any agreement. The last thing I want is a duplication of any sort. Okay, so if you want to send me anything, I'm glad to take a look at it.
I'll have to pose the question to our attorney. I know all of those pieces, but I will ask.
On page 6, insurance companies like to use esoteric terminology. Everybody knows thinking of me. Oh, but this is actually insurance companies are trying to say this is portable equipment. So this is all your backhoes and loaders, and the equipment is all listed here. Now the international dump truck, like I said, that's over here. for 173,000, and the golf cart is over here for 14,000. And I believe that your highway people have looked at this list, and we try to keep it up to date. And so any piece of equipment that's 10 years old or newer is covered for replacement cost. And if it's older than 10 years old, it's covered on depreciation value. And then we do have a miscellaneous category for unscheduled tools and equipment for $20,000 with a maximum of $2,000 on any one item. So, and that's subject to $1,000 deductible. So, we're on page 7. The top of page 7 is the umbrella policy, which I've mentioned previously. In the middle of the page is the public officials policy. The public officials policy is the one that protects not just this board, but your planning board, any elected or appointed official for claims of things like sexual harassment, violation of civil rights, planning and zoning, wrongful termination, discrimination in hiring, all of that comes into the public officials policy. And I believe, and Tom, in fact, we can ask, I believe the village has adopted a local law which says that the village will protect and indemnify any employee sued arising out of his official duty. So you've got sort of 2 layers of protection. One is that local law, and the other is, of course, that would come out of town coffers, where this would come from the insurance company. The next policy is a bond, protects the village up to $200,000 for misappropriation of money by anyone entrusted with that. Bottom of the page, the disability policy. Your workers' comp, by the way, is through the Saratoga County Self-Insurance Plan. So your disability is through us. And I think you rightfully chosen the statutory limit is only 170. And I think we rightly chose 240. 50% of the average wage, subject to a maximum of 340. Disability, by the way, off the job sickness. Somebody who gets pneumonia and can't work for 6 weeks, or somebody that's hurt off the job. Whereas, of course, workers' comp is on the job injury. So then we get over to page 8, and this is where I'm very happy to report that if you go to the bottom line here, last year, this year, it's less than 1%. However, a couple things that I want to say about that. We've raised the amount on the building. Going back to the beginning, I mentioned buildings and contents and the blanket replacement cost. We raised all of them by 2.7%. So you'll see the total is less than 1% different from last year. But in June, we gave you retrospective rating is basically a good. So that was for the 17 and 18 years that you were wood selected, and they gave back 384.06. So being an insurance kind of guy, I say you can actually subtract that from that balance and you'd be paying less than last year. One interesting thing is when you look at this chart also, the public officials policy is the one that went up the most. And the reason for that is apparently in the new census, you have more people than you had before. And the public officials policy is rated based on your population and the number of employees. Your number of employees didn't change, but the population, according to our records, went from 675 to 850. So that is why the public officials policy increased. Other than that, you would see premium is basically about what it was in spite of the changes that we made. Some of them were outlined on page 9 On page 9, I just like to mention, based on our experience in insuring other towns and villages. There are 9 villages in Sarasota County. We do insure 6 of them, so we have some experience in insuring villages. And of course, I know when I'm late because I was brought up here, it's my hometown. What I'd like to do on this page, say, for anything I should mention to them that I haven't mentioned. The second item down is certificate of insurance, and I know Kim is good about this, but if you hire somebody to do some work, you would have a contract with them. And I feel part of my job is to be the risk manager. In other words, risk transfer is a big part of insurance. So anytime you can transfer the risk to somebody else, you should do it. So if you hired somebody to paint, say, a roof or a building, as Tom well knows, and as anybody who watches TV knows, you see ads from attorneys of people falling. And the reason they're saying, are you collecting workers' comp? You could be collecting more. What they're referring to is a section of the labor law that says that if a worker, and it pertains to commercial property, not residential, if a worker falls off a ladder, falls off a scaffold, falls off a roof, any elevated, in the insurance business, we sort of derisively call it gravity insurance. But it can be a bombshell if you aren't protected. So if you were going to hire somebody who's been working in capacity, I would want to work with Tom and say, we want that contractor to provide you proof of insurance. We want him to name you additional insured on the policy. And Tom knows enough to put in the contract what's called the promise clause, which says that contractor is going to hold harmless for claims arising out of his work. So we try to help in any way we can in that respect. Another way we try to help is on claims, and we just had a sort of, for instance, where there was a water damage to this building, and the adjuster, they made a couple of mistakes. One mistake he made was he sent a denial letter to one of my clients without telling me. And so the letter comes in to Peter and Kim, and it says, we're not going to pay this claim. And so actually, part of my job is to be your advocate on claims. I can't get something covered that's not covered, but I can be your advocate. So I went to this adjuster and I said, what are you doing here, without getting into all very detailed? But anyway, he instantly reevaluated and covered me for $5,800. And so I just want you to know, if there is a claim, that I'm on your side to try to get everything paid that can legitimately be paid.
Good job. Good job.
So, thank you. Peter was involved in that too. But that had a happy ending. Earthquake and flood, I just feel I have to say you don't have earthquake and flood. Tom knows me well enough to know my oddball sense of humor that I might say if something happened with an earthquake claim, I wouldn't want you to say it was my fault.
Oh,
Sorry about that. People at the TV audience probably think they got on the wrong channel.
latest installment.
But anyway, other than that, I think you would selected, they have this program for municipalities. They have been fair on the rate. In this day and age, the inflation running whatever it is, 5%. We're coming in basically months. And we had made increases on the policy. So
Do you think that this adequately insures the village?
Pardon?
Do you think that this adequately
Yes.
ensures the village?
Yes. Yeah, and thankfully, I'm very grateful for that, by the way, grateful to be your agent and, you know, I'm accessible. Carry my cell phone with me at all times. And our emails, our business emails, as you might expect, come in on my cell phone. So if for some reason I was away from the office or I'm working at home, I should do that quite a bit now with the paperless office. I get that email anyway. So if we had to answer any other questions?
I don't recall the numbers from last year for the auditorium on page 4. Just knowing that we've made several improvements in there, are the chairs, all of the new chairs, are they covered under the building or under the personal property?
The auditorium that I remember, it's been a while since I've been in it, the chairs were permanently attached to
They've
the.
been unbolted and replaced.
They're
Right.
unbolted
And
and.
replaced.
Rebolted.
And rebolted, so
Yeah.
it's back in.
Oh, they're back, okay. If they're
But
permanent.
they're new, but they're new. So
Okay,
I know
you
the.
have replacement costs. You have replacement costs. So,
But that's not my, I'm sorry, that's not my question. So I know you said, the buildings had coverage had been increased by 2.7. Right, is that 2.7 going to cover the cost of those new chairs?
now,
Replacement cost. It doesn't matter. If they all are destroyed, the insurance coverage is for replacement cost, what it would cost to replace.
well, but I think Tina's question is, are these chairs, are they building or are they contents? And if they're.
They're bolted in, they're fixtures.
Yeah, if they're permanent, it's sort of like the furnace in your home. That's part of it.
You answered it.
Okay, good.
But the other thing is, what about all of the new AV equipment? I don't know if it's 24,000 for the personal, I don't know what personal property is, so. I don't know.
Their personal property is contents. This personal property basically is contents, what is not permanently attached.
Okay, so then all of the new AV equipment.
That number's probably going up.
Okay, well, that's we do this every year as.
Right, right.
And the purpose of it is
For today's
to
question.
catch things like that, something that may have happened during the year. Now, I will say this, you remember, may seem like a long time ago when they started. I said you had blanket coverage. So you got that pool of 3.4 or whatever.
So we don't
so-
necessarily need to increase this amount, it could fall under blanket coverage.
Yes, it would. It would. On the other hand, you might want to,
Should I give you a more accurate?
You might
figure for
wanna-
that portion, yeah.
you might want to boost it up a little bit if you've got more things in there. Just so their figures are realistic.
I'll make it-
I don't remember the figure of the AV equipment, but it wasn't,
It's
it-
50,
it's more than
60,000.
80,000.
yeah.
If you said 80, if you said 80 on that.
It was more than half.
Right, if you said 80, I think that would be a ballpark.
Do you want to change that to
I
80,000?
think we probably should.
Fine.
I think we should, yes.
Okay. Here's so.
Trust me, I'm not trying to make our insurance go up, but you know,
No,
all these.
that was a good
things
catch.
that we're putting in.
Contents.
You can see a roof flood or something.
Is there anything else that needs to be tweaked or changed?
Well, there's a question for the board, which you may be able to contribute to, and that is, like, I recall a while ago, when the village cataloged all of its personal property, and assigned numbers to it and so forth. and-
Right.
Is that an ongoing effort? I mean, if we lost the auditorium, would we be able to go to a file folder or a computer file and find a copy of all the contents that we lost?
Certainly most of the new things. We have not put inventory tags on them. We probably should.
But do we have an inventory list?
What's it called? Asset management? There used to be a requirement when I was supervisor. You had to, like you say, you got to list every desk and every chair and you got to put a number with it and all that kind of thing. But so it would be good if you had that. Now, an alternative, which is a lot easier than going through the making inventory, is take a camera and go through and take a picture of everything, open the closet doors. I tell the firemen when they do that, open the doors of the trucks. So everything gets on there and then obviously keep that in somebody's home. Don't keep that in the village hall, which might catch fire. And then if something happened, you have a starting place. Because if you have a claim like that, you got to submit what's called proof of loss. Proof of loss, a list of all the damaged items. So that would be a good project, and I'm sure a whole lot easier.
It had been started. Lois has started, we've got tags on a lot of this furniture, I know in here. I haven't, not on the new things yet. I'm not sure about the old, but I know it's in here. We could update that.
Okay. Is there anything? I appreciate you taking all this time, but it is an important subject. And again, thank you very much for choosing us to see your chance to come back home and have some kind of memory, you know, of Mound Lake. Walking to my parents' office, which I lived on Cole. And the office was the Tyson house. And so I walked from Cole over to, that was the first day that I joined my parents in the church, which was.
Is that you taken out as well?
Where?
That stays or? You know,
Which happened to be October 1st, so I won't tell you what year it was. I moved a long time ago.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you, Tom. Have a good meeting.
Good night. Okay. Old business, Halloween events. Kim, you want to take it away?
Yeah, well, we got a call from that guy again. The guy, the question, the guy that was here questioning.
Yes.
Called the office again.
Today?
What is, did you ask somebody once?
I just said, you know, we have an idea of what you want to propose, and you need to send it to me in advance of the meeting. Oh, I'm gonna take down my number and the address of the email and all that.
I'm sorry,
I don't know what
the
that is.
gentleman, there was someone who was wondering about our mask policy at one of the several meetings ago, when we were discussing the wishes swap, there was someone, another
Oh, I
person.
I was on the thing and I couldn't quite hear.
It calls periodically, so now we can try to book something in that join. It's not,
Very vague.
very vague.
Yeah, I would say. Probably just trying to stir.
So anyway, I met with Danielle briefly, and we wanted to see what we could plan for Halloween, on Halloween night for the kids, and do it safely. And we decided we should plan something outside as per Joanne's suggestion to keep it safe. So I said you guys this earlier, we thought we would have something from our building here. We've spoken to Amy and Eric, who said that they would work on some kind of decorations for the front to be determined, but they know working with them. Dan has agreed to do some lighting, and now we find some volunteers to help the judges and managers and that kind of.
It's easier to do it over here than over there on time.
It's an easier place to organize, the space is easier to organize. It's part of that being on the laptop,
Right?
and judges could set up right from the building. I secured the largest in the world, set up something set right down the street.
Okay.
We thought we could have the cars parked elsewhere that place, we could shop lines for the kids. It's more organized.
Right, no, it doesn't.
Right. We had, but we would close the road that we were, as for your Second Street and Fletcher, kind of keep it to the, like a walking wall.
Uh-huh.
And then the same thing, we just have the other term, with the food, donuts, I think we had cookies and cider, we can do those things again. We got $5,000 in celebrations in the budget, so we never touch. We didn't touch it on the last year either, so we could, it's an extra, fun things for the kids. I wrote we could get in folding chairs or volcano features, but people are just gonna go around, so I don't think that's really necessary. Danielle, do you have anything to add to that?
I couldn't really hear you. I think you covered everything. I heard most of it. It was kind of mumbled, but
I got the mask, sorry.
I know it's okay. It's all right.
Do we need restrooms?
Village office can be open.
We could open the office.
Okay.
I'll
If we-
gladly man the office.
Yeah.
Be the restroom attendant.
I will. I'd rather do that than stay home and hand out candy.
Did the unvaccinated witches go away?
They do.
Yes, they withdrew their whatever.
Yes.
The bathroom usage, just have the side door open because will the front of the doors be used by the judges?
Yeah, they'll be sitting probably either on the steps or right in front of the steps on the sidewalk. So that would be in the way.
Yeah.
So if the board is inclined to like that idea and say yes, we just need to find helpers now, volunteers.
Yes.
Mhm.
So, kind of good. We want to do it on the day. Last year we didn't do it on the day and just didn't feel right, so.
I have one thing I wanted to bring up. Someone had mentioned to me, would it be wise to have the contest a day before Halloween? So we don't have a lot of outsiders in. I don't care one way or another. It was just a suggestion. That's it. That's all I have to say.
I don't know. I mean, we discussed advertising, maybe we would not advertise on the community pages. I mean,
Okay,
we could just do it on the Round Lake Only Facebook page and
Yeah.
email newsletter kind of thing.
okay.
But the Lantern is 75% non-resident, so
Is it?
yes, that's not the place to do it. Right, Danielle, is that accurate?
Exactly. Yeah. I think Gary, didn't you make a account a couple years ago or whatever of how many people actually on the Lantern lived in the village?
Yes, but I'll be darned if I can remember it.
That's all right. Yes, but maybe word of mouth or emails to all of our village residents. I don't know. It's a lot of work, but
Email's not.
Email's not a lot of work.
okay.
We have most-
Then let's email it every day so they can't say they didn't get it.
Tina wanted to bring up the fire truck and they wanted to bring the fire truck down. I think Kim had talked
Yeah,
to Frank
I
about that.
spoke with Frank, he said just tell us an alternate location for them to be, and he'll be there, he doesn't care. He's perfectly fine with, he originally wanted to have it here in front of the building, and I said, we're kind of moving things around, and he said, it's fine, just tell, if he doesn't come down, that's fine, but if we could go somewhere else, he'll be somewhere else. So
By the holiday tree.
perhaps,
maybe.
yeah. So we have a lot of organizing to do on our end, but if it sounds okay, we will go ahead and do those things.
Sure.
Mhm.
I think what had just happened with Tina having to leave, what would happen if we didn't have a quorum after she left in the middle of the meeting?
we would
I know.
disband or adjourn the meeting. So thank you for coming, Heidi.
Or we just not able to vote on this.
Well, you couldn't vote,
Couldn't
that's for
vote.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, we could sit and shoot the breeze, but there's only two people.
We have an issue with the planning board. Fred is left and all of a sudden we couldn't vote.
Yeah, but you could stick around.
Oh, no, we
and talk.
continued the meeting.
Yeah,
We
it
didn't vote.
wouldn't be official.
Well, if the meeting's official, you just can't vote. You don't have a quorum, you can't vote. Doesn't mean you can't have a meeting, I don't think. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what we did.
All right. Okay. Danielle, we gotta get to work.
Yes,
Okay. No new
Thank you
business.
for doing that, you too.
it will be a success.
It will be. Yes. It'll be fun.
New business, no new business. Village attorney. Words of wisdom?
Nothing is, that's not a name, so no.
Village mayor is totally out of wisdom. Trustees?
Never been accused of being wise.
Heidi?
Perfect.
Public comment? No executive session? I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Heidi,
Me,
then Tom seconds. Aye.
aye, bye.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Thank you, Danielle.
See ya.